Morning, everyone. We'll stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. First, we have the agenda approval. Is there any changes?
Mr. Chair, you all got a last-minute addition from Solid Waste regarding quotes for new well construction. We'd like to add that,
Okay.
wherever it fits.
Okay, we'll either do it at the end unless somebody else doesn't show up for their appointed time slot, then we'll slide it in there. Otherwise, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is passed. Now, public input. Anybody like to speak on public input? Alrighty. You just want to state your name and address?
Nicole Gaida, and I live at 709 Woodland Avenue in Providence.
Thank you.
So, Hubbard County Board of Directors, I sent each of you a letter and signed petitions from Hubbard County residents who have reason to believe the use of electronic voting machines are susceptible to hacking and therefore put free and fair elections at risk. It is not good enough to provide me with blind reassurances. I want to know if any of you can guarantee that any foreign registered company or any foreign entity or any companies that have a foreign registration are not involved in electronic ballot machines, electronic counting of votes, and electronic reporting of votes. If you cannot provide proof that electronic machines are safe from hacking, then Hubbard County needs to immediately cease the use of any electronic voting equipment and return to hand or manually counted ballots. Will any of you go on record to guarantee that the voting machines used in Hubbard County are free from interference from foreign registered companies, foreign entities, or any company with a foreign registration? The only way to guarantee free and fair elections is both eliminate mail-in ballots and cease the use of any form of electronic ballot machines, counting of votes, and electronic reporting of votes. All paper ballots should be hand or manually counted and recorded to ensure our votes are accurate. We do not need efficiency with elections. We need accuracy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to speak? Doesn't matter.
Whatever you'd like to do.
Whatever you like, okay, well, if I'm not loud enough, yell. My name is Ray Kramer. I'm from White Oak Township. My concern today is about election integrity, that free, safe, fair, and legal elections are conducted, and that as a resident of Hubbard County, that I can be assured that my vote counts. My vote, I don't want my vote canceled, is what I'm saying. Moreover, that you can assure me that my vote counts and will not be canceled. I believe as an official of the county governs you guys, that burden is upon you and the administrator here. You guys are representatives, that's all I'm saying. I know Minnesota election law has its problems, obstacles, downright unethical players and pulling the levers. I understand that, there's a lot of stuff going on somewhere else at a higher level, dictating to you, but Minnesota is one of the worst in the USA. You can look in the records on that, i.e. no provisional ballots. There's not many places that don't do provisional ballots. Minnesota's one of them. So my question to you as Hubbard County administrators, are we doing everything we can to assure us, as citizens, legal, fair votes counted only? Similar to what Nicole was saying, some of the issues of the machines, but there's other things. Some of my concerns are same-day registration, no provisional ballots, can't even think about that. Vouching, shortage of ballots. Henrietta had shortage of ballots this year, mail-out ballots. There was 2 in White Oak at the other election that already They were mailed to a person that had a Florida address. That was 2. How many more is there out there? My question. That was this year. So unused ballots, process machines, absentee voting till the end election day. And I know you can't do a lot about this, but vote shaping, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second here. I advocate hand counting and backing it up with a tabulator or a machine. So I advocate that we maybe do it 2 ways. We've entered upon an age where you need checks and balances to a magnitude that, probably didn't need before. Okay, so the sad thing is that since 2020, we have voter confusion and there's mistrust out there, and our goal should be to regain voter confidence, both in all parties, is what I'm saying. Am I getting close to time here?
Go ahead for a little bit here.
Okay, in ending, the election session season is upon us, and I hope that the board verifies to the maximum extent legal votes counted. And I don't have all the answers. I'm hoping that you guys will somewhat put your heads together. And my last concern is this vote shaving business where by a variety of methods, you can take a vote here, take a vote there. Might not even know it. They might not even throw the machines in there. But one here, what if it's 10? What if it's 50? What if it's 200 that slip by? Whether by all the various ways, and we know it happens. We know it happens. So anyway, I guess that was it. And then take that times across the whole state, just a few here, a few there, all the precincts in the state times a few votes. It adds up. Close elections can be swayed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. And would anybody else like to provide public comment? Alrighty. We'll move on then to the consent agenda. Once again, any changes there?
No changes.
Alrighty. If I can get a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Tom. I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we go on to employee recognition. In environmental services, we have Jack Bovee, GIS supervisor, began the full-time position on October 10th, 2022. Hello, Jack. In human resources, we have Loretta Matson, payroll coordinator, is recognized for 35-plus years of service from September 8th, 1987 to October 28th, 2022. Parks and Recreation, is Loretta here? No, okay. Parks and Recreation, Thomas Bell, Parks Maintenance Worker Seasonal, is recognized for his service from May 7th, 2022 to October 2nd of 2022. Roger Hensel, Parks Maintenance Worker Seasonal, is recognized for his service from April 25th of 2022 to October 21st, 2022. And Social Services, Kimberly Russell, Social Worker Child Services, began the full-time position on October 10th, 2022. Kathleen Melvin, Case Aide, began the full-time position on October 10th, 2022. And Allison Walsh, Case Aide, began the full-time position October 10th, 2022. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is natural resources. Good morning.
Good morning. Give you the results of our last timber auction, which was held October 10th. We had 12 tracts on that auction, covering 559 acres, 8,035 cords. All 12 of the tracts sold on the first round of bidding. And there was varying level of degrees of bidding on that. There was some storm damage on it, on some of the tracks, so the bidding was up and down. Overall, The price on aspen was down a bit, but that was to be expected with the varying levels of storm damage that was in there. But in total, we raised $290,318.38 on this timber auction, which is our final for the year. And with the graph that I provided, you can see the heavy blue line is the aspen price. You can see back in July, there was a very heavy dip in that price, and that was because that was a storm damaged auction. And the price again in this last auction is down a little bit. The green line, heavier green line, is our trend line, which takes a 3-period moving average. Again, it's down a little bit, but I think, you know, in our next year's auctions, you'll see that come back up again. Just a little bit on how much we've sold for the year. We have sold just shy of 40,000 cords of timber, and the total value of the timber we have sold this year is about $1.23 million. So it's not a bad amount. It's certainly not what it was back in 2015, 16, but it is coming up, so. Any questions on our timber auction?
Everything sold, so.
Everything's sold,
good.
yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chip. Next, we have the Sheriff's Department.
Or we could bring Josh
I
up.
was just gonna say, but since we don't see him, Josh, you wanna come on up?
Good morning.
Morning.
Apologize for my late agenda item. But the item that I had, I believe you all have copies, was to review and approve quotes for new well construction. This is a replacement well as part of the plan to address Minnesota Department of Health exceedances in boron and manganese levels down gradient to the south landfill. 2 quotes were received for the new well construction, with Elsner Well Drilling of Monaga being the low quote at $15,570. Both quotes included a well up to 150 feet deep and also included a 20% contingency. So that would be my recommendation.
Josh, how does this compare to the wells we've already drilled?
This one was a little bit cheaper than, in price-wise, I mean, or, it was I think maybe $1,000 or couple thousand cheaper, than the last one, so they came down a little bit from the previous one. Since last year, you know, they're up, 10-15%, kind of like everything else. so.
Everything else, yes. Alrighty. So, does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, jog my memory here. We drilled a test well earlier. Is that functioning as predicted?
Yep.
And so hence, we need this one to finish the job.
Yep, it's a kind of a progression, you know, we have a few of them, a couple of them left, and everything's kind of been working out well so far, so.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, David.
Only 2 bids you got, right? Whoops, excuse me. Second,
Dan?
only 2 bids you got.
We did get a third one in later too, but it was quite a bit higher than these 2, so.
Are you concerned about the 20% contingency based on the 15.5 and the 17.1?
So that we just put that in there in case there's kind of unforeseen, costs that arise in the project. So that's, I think that's plenty of contingency. It shouldn't exceed that, so.
Alrighty. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
But that's included.
Motion carried.
After you explained it, I got it.
All right, thank you.
Josh?
Thanks, Josh. At first glance, I didn't see that. First glance, I thought, oops.
So we have the Sheriff's Department and a closed session.
The closed session scheduled for 10. I could do my update. Okay. So a couple of things I'd update on are the contract negotiations. We've reached tentative agreements with the first few groups, and we have a third meeting scheduled with the balance of the groups over the next 10 days. As such, we're using those numbers from those tentative agreements to update our budget worksheets. And I would hope to have new budget worksheets to you by the end of the month with those numbers, and then a review of where we're at related to the levy, and then a proposal of how we meet the preliminary levy that was set. So you'd have all of that. The second thing that would that would come along with that would be the history of our staffing by department, the FTE history over a number of years. I've shared it with you 5 years back, but we wanted to go back 10 to take a look at that. And then an outline of a capital plan, which is a little more complicated, but at least the listing of the things that we know on in this year's budget for 2023 requests, and then as much as information as we have going forward out there. So you'll at least have a spreadsheet of the numbers and the projects and the departments that are requesting those. So you'll have an idea what the what next year and near-term capital projects requests are going to look like. Questions about where we're at with the budget process? Otherwise, I'll get you a packet of materials. We've got a big gap again between the last meeting of November and of October, and we got a couple weeks here, so I'll get that information to you rather than waiting until that Tuesday to get it to you. Thank you.
Thank
Do you have a digital form of that,
Of,
of the budget request? The 2023 budget request, do you have that in digital form? So I can put it on the
Which-
laptop?
which requests?
The
Yeah.
2023 budget?
The updated one.
Yep, the updated IFS budget and all of the documentation we have to go along with that, the changes, yeah, it'll all come to you in a PDF format.
Okay, because I can sort through it quicker than
Yep.
on paper.
Yeah, no, I don't, I'd prefer not to give you paper. If you want a paper copy, let me know, otherwise you'll get it in PDF format.
Okay, great.
And then the other item that came up is that tomorrow is the AMC district meeting, and I don't know who's planning on going, but I'm unable to attend. Brian Erdman did send out a number of questions that they typically review at these meetings. You know, what is your preliminary levy increase and what are the key drivers? You know, at this point, we're hoping to capture 10% of Enbridge, and we're sitting at a 9% operational increase that we're hoping to reduce before final approval. What are the key drivers? The biggest change in that 9%, 6.25% of that is related to operations at the jail, right? I think it's unique to us that that's the driver. Of course, wages are going up, and that's also going to have an impact. The second question on union negotiations, for those that have settled, where are you at? And what are the biggest roadblocks and the biggest difficulty to get over with is related to the economic circumstances and the fact that it's going to cost more to get contracts done this year than it has in recent years. And I think everybody knew that kind of going in. So that's the biggest hurdle, is the financial one. What county position is currently the hardest to fill? And I would simply note that we authorized 4 additional dispatcher jailer positions in March, and several of those are still open. So I would highlight that as one of our hardest positions to fill at this point in time. County's key legislative priorities, I would leave that to your discretion to bring forward in discussion tomorrow at that meeting. And then biggest leadership challenges as you anticipate facing in your county over the next year or so. I think that the thing that we'll start focusing on right when we get through budget and election season is we'll start working on leadership development to make sure we're able to respond to employee needs and public demands quicker than we currently have the capacity to do. So from my perspective, I'll give you that list to bring forward, and feel free to edit and add to that or discuss now as you will.
Can you be there?
I am not going to
I plan to attend.
You gonna be there, Tom?
I'm planning on it, yep.
Possibly.
It'll be late, but I'm coming.
So I'll email this list that I just read to all of you so that you have that. You can bring it forward, fill in the blanks, add or remove or change, but those are my, I mean, the first three are relatively simple. The legislative priorities and the biggest challenges, you guys may want to add some flavor to that, some things that you've seen.
All righty. Guess we'll call on the sheriff. Good morning.
Good morning.
Easy. Jeez.
All right, first item I have is requesting approval for a contract to renew our contract with our Everbridge emergency notification system. This is something that we've had for years, and it's basically our mass notification system. When we have an emergency, we can notify the entire county, we can notify just the city of Park Rapids, just a 1-block radius around a house, however it is. It's a very good system that we have. It is paid with E911 dollars. I initially just wanted to renew it for the 1 year because with our new computer system coming, we didn't know if that would include that. As part of that, we found out it doesn't, so I would like to renew it for the 3-year quote as attached, and I'm just looking for approval for that.
I'll make that motion for approval. Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, David. And this is the one where Scott gives us a call and tells us something's going on.
Yes, that's the one.
I have a question about that one.
Yes.
When it calls like your phone or even your cell phone, and then once you answer it, it's not supposed to call you back again?
I don't know how to answer that. It all depends on what the default settings are, how it's set up. I've had where it's called me, multiple times as well. I don't know how to answer that,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
I was just wondering if that can be changed.
Well, yeah, I think some of it turns into a little bit of a nuisance, especially maybe the weather, some of the weather stuff, but, they might simply do that when there's a serious, weather front coming to make sure everybody got it. I'm not sure. I'll certainly look into that.
It's a good message, but on the cell phone, it really blares out.
Yeah.
And once you receive it, well, then we don't need to get it again.
Yep, I'm with you. I'll check into that.
Okay,
though. I will.
great.
And I think that during the call, they ask you to press number 1 or something if you've gotten the message, so.
Yep. And that is so hit and miss. That's one way to find out just internally if you've received it or not, but not everybody does it, so. Yeah, I suppose it's nice to be able to hit it. It kind of confirms that you got it. And maybe that might be what triggers not getting the call back.
Okay, gotta push the 1.
Possibly, yeah, that set where you wouldn't get that second call. Maybe you're not Mr. Compliant there and hitting 1, so.
Could be. All right.
Okay,
Where do they get the database from?
They download it from, I don't know if it's the white pages or what it is, but they have a database that they get when we initially set this up, and then it updates, periodically, but yeah, they get it from somewhere.
I don't think it's just the white pages, because it wouldn't be the cell phones.
No, but see, some of the cell phones, you have to manually update that yourself.
Oh, do you?
Yep, if you wanna also get it
Oh,
on a
yeah,
cell
because
phone.
I did call that.
Yes.
Yep, you're right.
Yep, so it automatically will go to all published landlines, and then if you wanna have it go to your cell as well. Yeah.
great. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, second item I have is requesting to approve an amendment with our MEND Medical Correctional Care contract. We, ever since May, we've actually been receiving an additional 1 day a week nursing coverage for our inmates in our jail. We haven't been charged with that, which we've been very fortunate that the company has put this off until now. This is something that he's not willing to do for nothing, any longer. So there is an amendment to the contract, which is obviously an additional cost. The money is budgeted, the additional money is budgeted for in next year's budget, but for November and December, additional cost simply is not. But we have no choice to do that because, like I say, this is our medical provider in our jail, and you will see the actual amendment should be attached in your paperwork.
Is that cost driven by the increase in inmates, basically?
Yes.
So I'm just curious, so it went from $3.12 an hour to $3.59 an hour? Is that because you're adding are you paying extra for the health services even though, because I just divided by the total hours?
Yep.
Or is it just because the contract's up and prices have gone up?
Well, they do a breakdown on what they provide. You know, for example, they'll provide so much actual doctor coverage, so much nursing, so much of the mental health coverage. That is just a breakdown as to what it is. The majority of the cost, the bulk of it is simply an extra day a week for nursing costs,
Okay.
is what it is. Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dan. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, I thank you for that. I don't have anything else on my agenda. I'm happy to answer any questions if the board has anything for me before I leave.
I gotta commend one of your officers. I don't know what day it was. I'm gonna think about if it was maybe maybe last week, Friday, whatever, by Dorset intersection. Park Rapids bus coming down from the town of Dorset, going west, takes off, goes in the right lane. I come across 34, going towards Park Rapids, car comes down the hill just to flying. Wiggles in between the two buses. The one bus, are you familiar with this?
Nope.
Oh, the one bus gets
I'm just
scared.
imagining it in my head.
Oh, yeah, it was interesting. It's kind of cool to watch. Park Rapids bus goes across the fog line for whatever reason, obviously to give them more room. Lo and behold, here's a deputy down by Long Lake where the hill is, you know, and wham! It looked just like me back in the good old days.
Sure.
I mean, it just like, phew, got him.
Maybe not quite wham, but
Well, you know, I was fast at one time.
All right, okay.
You know, not anymore, but the brain is still going, but
Yep,
the body
yeah.
slowed down. But anyhow, so I thought that was pretty good. He was at the right place at the right time.
yep, and that makes all the difference in the world. I
So-
wish we could be there more often at the right place at the right time, but
No
we
issues.
do what we can, so.
No,
Thank you for the kind word though, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, let's see, I guess we can move on to committee reports.
Mr. Chair, I would have two other items that I pushed out an email from a contact at the DNR relative to DNR acquisition of those former potlatch lands that were purchased by the Conservation Fund. And it's those lands that we're talking about, those lands that are already relatively set aside, including that big section just below the Deep Lake Park area. And when he called and talked to me, he asked what the best way was to push this out, and that they wanted to be out in the townships where these were affected before they would come to the county board. I said, but I think if we send them the information, let them know that this is happening, and you communicate with them when you're visiting the townships, then they'll come back to the county board to summarize this information. So he's going to be visiting the townships, walking through this with them, talking specific parcels and, you know, identification of that process. I reviewed with him what I believe are the county's wishes relative to public lands and making sure that when we have them, they're in the right places and they're not interfering with developable lands. And of course, you guys are aware most of these parcels are the ones that are contiguous to other undeveloped, unimproved areas make the most sense, and still had that conversation about identifying those individual public lands that would be better suited as developable and private. So we had that conversation. This is kind of a piece of information that he's going to be out in the community, working in the townships that you guys are representing as well. And then he'll be coming back to the board later this year, hopefully to wrap this process up.
Okay.
So just an update on that, because I heard that question.
I know some of the townships, especially in these areas that don't have a lot of citizens, don't meet every month too, so they may, I'm assuming some would be in Clay Township. I don't think they meet again till November.
Yeah, and that's why he would come back to us in December, so he'd have an opportunity to catch the October and the November ones, and then come back in December.
Okay, thank you.
And then I think I think we had a conversation about the next Hubbard County Township Association meeting, that we'd probably bring them a budget update, and we might bring forward a couple of other items that came from our public safety and transportation conversation last week. You'll be seeing those on a November work session. And the only last thing I had before you go to committee reports would be identifying the commissioner to attend the department head meeting next Tuesday, and according to our rotation, that would be Commissioner Christensen on Tuesday.
Okay, that's fine.
Because now Denise has got that marked out on her calendar, so when someone asks, we have documentation.
Thank you.
Otherwise, yes, I think you could go to, well, unless,
Could we, I have to leave early today, so can we just cover the December 6th meeting also?
yeah, if you want to take action to adjust the schedule, the recommendation would be that we not have a work session on the 13th, we not meet on the 6th, and we'd have regular meetings on the 13th and the 20th of December.
Board meeting on December 13th.
And then a reminder that you've already set the truth and taxation for Thursday, the 8th at 6 o'clock PM.
I know in previous years we've met,
After,
and it usually seems like it's the Wednesday.
yeah.
Yeah,
That is
that's
correct.
what we have done in previous years.
So they've changed the AMC schedule this year, obviously, to end on Wednesday. That, as I recall, is ending Wednesday morning.
Actually, it always ends
It's always
Wednesday
been.
morning, but I don't usually stay for Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
I think Sunday night through Wednesday has been the typical schedule.
Voting, though.
Just for the people serving.
Leadership typically, and any other, yeah.
Okay. So how does the board feel? Do they want to go with that schedule? Not have a work session?
That's fine. I won't be there no matter what happens, I'm gone that week.
You have a lot of stuff that we may have to address then to clean up, or no?
The 13th and the 20th? No, I would anticipate that a vote on the final budget and levy would be on December 20th. And that if we have any work session items that we would need to carry forward, we just have that as part of the meeting on the 13th.
Cruise on the 23rd.
So you need a motion?
Yeah, I'd prefer to have a motion to adjust the schedule.
I'll move.
Thank you, David.
That's for the 13th and the 20th for a board meeting. Okay, I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, then I guess we can move on to committee reports. You want to start, David?
Yeah, I guess we got enough time. I'll let you do MRC.
Okay.
Char, you can do Heritage this time, I'll pipe in if something. Heartland Lakes Development Commission met yesterday, they're still working on, they received a RCDI grant, so we're still working on a housing development project. And that RCDI grant will help fund the necessary engineering work along with the city of Park Rapids, so that's moving forward hopefully, and we'll continue to move forward. The only other thing I did attend a tour of the Everbridge pump station, and along with many of you, it's pretty impressive. Nice facility, lots of safety measures, and a nice addition, I believe, to the area, so.
And really clean.
Clean, well laid out, done well.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was going to be bigger.
Yeah,
You know, from the road, it looks massive. Then when you get there, it doesn't seem like it's that big. But it was impressive.
that's it.
All right, thank you. Tom?
Well, the only thing I have is Kitchigami Regional Library. I'm also involved in the labor negotiations for that. We have reached a tentative agreement with the union stewards and also the representative, but it's going to voting, so I can't really discuss it until voting's over with. But I'm glad we reached an agreement. The increases will be fairly significant because they were behind. That's the reason why they wanted to form a union in the first place, because they were really getting behind on a lot of the pay and benefits. And that's about all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Char?
I have one thing to add about HLDC, because it goes along with, the HRA met last night, and at both places, we talked about how, if there was another apartment building built, it would already be filled. And so, continue to explore what we can do for housing, especially, there's a couple new employers thinking of moving to town, and so continued workforce.
Anything
issue.
large? When
I
you
don't
say
know.
these,
I don't know about, the two potential because it's still confidential, so I don't know who they are.
just looking for numbers, that's all.
HRA is working on a policy manual, and also, they revamped, the rent collection to try avoid people getting either late on their rent or else uncollectible when they just leave. That was that, and, the Heritage Executive Committee work is going forth for, aggressive marketing, and then interviews are taking place for an interim. And if nobody is hired by the 5th, that's when Kurt retires. Katie will be heading up Heritage in his, so that's. And then on November 3rd, which is a Thursday, they're having a retirement celebration for Kurt.
One question, I'm not really familiar with all the staff there. What's Katie's current position?
Katie works, she's actually over Kurt in Ecumen, she's an Ecumen employee.
Is she the one who's?
Yeah, she was the
okay,
one
I
who's
got
here. And then just for your information, all of you will be invited, you'll be getting an email from Jim, CEO at Prime West, for everyone to do a Zoom meeting on the 3rd, if you care to join.
3rd of
The
November?
3rd of November, our regular Prime West meeting. They're inviting all the commissioners from all the counties that are involved in Prime West.
Will they be sending out a link?
He
to
will be
all?
sending out a link, yep. I sent all your emails, including Jeff's email last week to him, and they'll be sending one out.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to add about Heritage?
Slight uptick in some census and some
Yes.
interest, which is positive, so
Okay.
hopefully that trend continues.
Did you get any calls regarding Heritage?
I have not.
Anything recent, Dave?
A
About
little bit of
census?
feedback.
I got feedback earlier, about, wanting to make sure it stayed open, but lately I haven't received any calls.
Dan?
I did. Hubbard in Extension, we had a meeting the other night, did the evaluation process for all of our U of M employees / kind of county with Mary Jo. Numbers are slowly going up. It appears to be that a lot of the 4-Hers or families are around Park Rapids, but we're missing out on greater Hubbard County. So they're gonna try to reach out, LaPorte, way up north in your area, and try to reach more families to provide more education for youth in the different groups. Trying to think what else on that one.
We talked about the fair because we didn't have a meeting since the fair, and they had good turnout.
Yeah, fair was pretty good. Climate seems to be going in the right direction, at least on our end. So we'll see what happens, but it was all good. Long meeting, mind you. But they seem to be. Sue, did you have anything you want to comment on? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And let's see,
Tara has a lot of new programs coming up for this year. That was nice.
Yes. Yep.
let's see, had a MRC meeting on the 10th. As you all know, Dan Larson, who runs the meetings and stuff, is retiring. We looked at, there 6 candidates to replace him. 4 of the groups had multiple people on their staffs, and 2 of the people presenting were just single people, just one person in their company. I think part of the consensus was that with, we need more than one person, especially in the sense they're a lobbying group. And when the session is, when the government is in session down there in St. Paul, you need to have more than one person. And even Dan said that himself. We narrowed it down to 3, Capitol Hill Associates, Weber Johnson, and O'Rourke. I had written down my 3 choices. I didn't write down who we chose. And then there'll be a special meeting, I believe, on the 14th of November
Yeah, it's the 14th.
to finally pick one. So I'll be attending that. And of course, we talked about legislative priorities. We talked about the clean car rule, education. I know that Dan had mentioned that we should be pushing as a group more for staffing and pay for nursing homes and other healthcare needs like that. I think that about covers that, unless you have something to add. Okay. And then I also had a Healthy Hubbard County. They have done a CHI, St. Joseph Health has done a 2022 Community Health Implementation Strategy. I've got an electronic copy that I was gonna send to Jeff and have him distribute that to the board. It's one of those things where they talk about the needs of the county. And the top 5 were mental health, substance abuse, youth community recreational center, economic factors to influence wellness, and obesity. And just to kind of back up on that, economic factors to influence wellness. If you're struggling financially, you don't have a job, you're having a hard time making ends meet, it's going to affect your wellness. And so if we can grow the economy here in Hubbard County, and people that want to work have jobs and can support themselves and stuff like that, that will help in the long run with their wellness. And like I say, mental health, that's a big subject now. Going to the Youth Community Rec Center, there was quite a bit of discussion on that. About, I know like Bemidji's got a Boys and Girls Club, and that they talked about maybe trying to bring one of those to Hubbard, to Park Rapids.
So who funds that? Because Detroit Lakes put one up or put a building up and has a few years ago for that.
Yeah,
So who heads that up?
I'm not sure, but that's a good question.
It's the state?
The state does?
I think that's where they get some monies from. I think it's a great idea, Ted. It's organized, and it has a pretty good success rate. So I would, if it ever did come this way, I would definitely be in favor of that.
Yeah.
I
And
think
it's,
we as a board member should as well.
Place for kids to hang out.
yeah.
Good place for-
Parents, everybody, yeah, there's
Yeah.
educational pieces, all sorts of different things.
And I think it would be important in every city in Hubbard County. We also talked about, because I'm in the rural area, and my district doesn't really have any large or even small cities, how do you reach those kids? Because the youth center, I think, is important. I know that my wife and I, we homeschooled our kids. A lot of the local churches had, on Wednesday nights, was when youth would come and play games and stuff like that. So I think that connection is important. And so like I say, it's not just a city issue, but it could, in the rural areas too, how do you reach those youth out there? And let's see, I was just gonna look at, Marley does a good job of doing the minutes right away. Talked about COVID response. I don't know if anybody wants to hear about that, but the numbers are down. We had a total of 33 tests positive so far in October. Community Health was awarded the Strong Foundation Evidence-Based Home Visiting Grant, so family home visiting utilizing the Health Family America model will continue. New funding begins 1/1 of 2023. WIC is resuming some in-person appointments in November. We'll go back to full in-person in early 2023 based on the Minnesota Department of Health guidelines or guidance. Community Health completed the University of Minnesota and Minnesota Department of Health cost and capacity assessment, which reviews each local public health department's capacity in the foundational areas of public health. The information is being compiled and will be presented to the Minnesota legislature in the spring. And I think that about covers that. And I also had yesterday the Dancing Sky Area Agency on Aging. I see I do have that information right here. I know one of the things that was discussed and something that they would like us to discuss at AMC is the flat funding that's been going on with the state and also with the federal government. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been pretty flat since the 90s. And with inflation and everything else, it's obviously there's a need for more funding. And of course, the Dancing Sky deals with the Title III, Older American Act. We talked about the current funding formula and how the state is changing the funding formula. And they're looking at a certain percentage going to people 65 or 60 years and up. Those that are 75 and up is also another category. Low income is part of the formula. Minorities and are part of the formula. And then also persons 65 plus living in non-urbanized areas or rural areas also goes to the towards the formula. So in our area, which would be the northwestern part of the state, our funding is, the percentage is actually going down a little bit. But of course, the more elderly people are moving to the Twin Cities area is what the report shows. So that funding is going up a little bit. We did talk about the service providers and how you get in a rural area in small towns where you may only have one service provider, whether that's one restaurant that's willing to cook meals for people, one senior citizen center, stuff like that. And when those places close, that's it. But in the Twin Cities area, you may have multiples of these, so if one closes down, another one can pick up the slack. So of course, that's a concern here out in the rural area. And I believe that's all I've got. I guess I could sit here and talk till 10 o'clock.
No, I don't think so. You're done.
Take a break?
Oh,
You're done.
well, it sounds like we want to take a break, so it's 9:48. The closed session is supposed to start at 10, so we'll be back before 10.
Mr. Chair, if we just have the vote to close the open session and open the closed session, then we
Okay,
just go to intermission now and we would come back when they're online.
sounds good. So Dan,
I'll make that motion.
Dan moves to close the session,
I'll second.
and Shara seconds. Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're now back in open session. If there's nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, David. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.